The spaceship descended slowly, its metallic surface gleaming under the light of two suns. It was a sight that would have taken anyone's breath away. For Yunwoo Park, however, it only added to his unease. He sat quietly in the passenger bay, alongside other human fighters, staring out at the alien world they were about to land on. None of them had signed up for this, fighting wars for species they didn't even know existed. But here they were, mercenaries hired by beings from another galaxy. Yunwoo shifted uncomfortably in his seat. At just 22 years old, he was the youngest member of the team. Most of the others treated him like a kid who barely knew how to hold a weapon. They weren't entirely wrong. He hadn't been trained as long as the rest of them. Still, and he had something none of them did, a knack for thinking fast and adapting to situations no matter how dire. That's what kept him alive so far. As the ship touched down with a soft thud, the captain gave everyone a stern look. "Listen up," he barked, pacing back and forth. "We don't know much about these aliens, but we do know one thing. They're paying us well. So keep your mouths shut, follow orders, and try not to get yourselves killed." Yunwoo nodded along with the others, though his mind wandered. What kind of creatures were waiting for them outside? Were they friendly, dangerous, or somewhere in between? The door hissed open, revealing a vast landscape bathed in golden light. Strange plants swayed gently in the breeze, their colors shifting like rainbows. In the distance, towering structures rose into the sky, shimmering as if made of liquid metal. A group of aliens approached, their forms tall and slender, with skin that glowed faintly blue. Their eyes were large and luminous, giving them an almost otherworldly appearance. At the center of the procession stood a figure who commanded attention immediately. She wore elaborate robes adorned with intricate patterns, and her presence radiated authority. This, Yunwoo realized, must be their leader, or at least someone important. The humans exchanged nervous glances as they stepped off the ship. None of them spoke, unsure of what to expect. One of the aliens stepped forward, speaking in a language that sounded like music. A translator device buzzed softly before rendering the words into English. "Welcome, warriors of Earth. We are grateful for your assistance in our time of need." Yunwoo glanced around, noticing how tense the others looked. He couldn't blame them. Something about this whole situation felt off. But there was nothing they could do now except play along. The leader, the one in the ornate robes, moved closer, studying each of them intently. Her gaze lingered on Yunwoo longer than the others, making him feel exposed. Just when he thought she might say something, she raised a delicate hand and pointed directly at him. "This one," she said, her voice calm but firm. "He will be mine." Silence fell over the group. Everyone turned to stare at Yunwoo, confusion written all over their faces. Even the aliens seemed surprised by her declaration. Yunwoo froze, his heart pounding in his chest. What did she mean by that? Why had she singled him out? Before anyone could react, the princess continued, addressing the crowd. "His spirit calls to me. There is strength within him, untapped potential. He is destined for greatness." Her words sent a ripple through the assembly. Some of the aliens murmured approvingly, while others frowned, clearly skeptical. Among the humans, whispers broke out. "What does she mean? He will be hers?" muttered one of the older fighters, glaring at Yunwoo. "Is this some kind of joke?" Yunwoo swallowed hard, forcing himself to stay composed. He didn't understand what was happening any more than the rest of them. All he knew was that he'd suddenly become the center of attention, and not in a good way. The captain cleared his throat, stepping forward cautiously. "Your Highness," he began, choosing his words carefully. I'm sure you have your reasons for selecting Private Park, but may I ask what role you intend for him to play?" The princess tilted her head slightly, considering the question. "All will become clear in due time," she replied cryptically. Then, turning back to Yunwoo, she added, "For now, Trust that I see something in you worth nurturing." With that, she motioned for her guards to escort the humans to their quarters. As Yunwoo followed behind the group, he couldn't shake the feeling that his life had just taken a drastic turn. Whatever lay ahead, he knew one thing for certain: it wouldn't be easy. That night, as he lay awake in his bunk, Yunwoo replayed the day's events in his mind. The princess's words echoed in his thoughts, haunting him. Was she right? Did he really possess some hidden strength? And if so, now why hadn't he noticed it before? Little did he know, those questions would soon lead him down a path filled with danger, discovery, and destiny. For now, though, all he could do was wait, and hope that whatever fate awaited him wouldn't destroy him first. The days that followed were tense and uneasy. Yunwoo tried to focus on his training, but it was hard when everyone around him kept glancing at him with suspicion. The princess's words had stirred something in the group, a mix of curiosity and distrust. Some of the other fighters whispered behind his back, questioning why the alien leader had chosen him. Others avoided him altogether, as if being near him might somehow make them a target too. Despite the unease, life went on. The humans trained alongside the aliens, learning their weapons and tactics. It wasn't easy. Everything about this world felt strange, from the shimmering air to the way the ground seemed to hum faintly underfoot. But Yunwoo threw himself into the work, determined to prove himself. If nothing else, he wanted to show the others that he deserved to be here just as much as they did. It was during one of these training sessions that Princess He-Rin appeared again. She walked gracefully across the field, her glowing robes trailing behind her like liquid light. Her presence commanded silence, and even the trainers paused to bow respectfully. Yunwoo stopped mid-exercise, unsure of what to do. He felt everyone's eyes on him, waiting to see how he would react. To his surprise, He-Rin didn't address the group. Instead, she came straight to him. Up close, her features were even more striking, and her skin shimmered faintly blue, and her large eyes seemed to hold an endless depth. For a moment, Yunwoo forgot to breathe. "You are improving," she said softly, her voice carrying a musical quality. "But there is more within you." Yunwoo blinked, unsure how to respond. I'm just doing my best," he stammered. He-Rin tilted her head slightly, studying him. "Your best is not enough. You must reach deeper. Trust yourself." Her words confused him, but before he could ask what she meant, she turned and walked away, leaving him standing there with a mix of frustration and curiosity bubbling inside him. What did she expect from him? And why did she keep showing up? Over the next few days, He-Rin began appearing more often. Sometimes she watched silently from the sidelines. Other times, she approached him directly, offering cryptic advice or asking questions that made no sense. "Why do you fight?" she asked once. "For survival? For honor? Or for something greater?" Yunwoo didn't know how to answer. He'd always fought because it was what he was good at, what he'd been trained to do. But now, faced with her probing questions, he found himself wondering if there was more to it. Was there a reason beyond mere survival? And if so, what was it? Their interactions drew even more attention from the others. Some of the human fighters began openly mocking him, calling him the princess's pet. Yunwoo ignored them as best he could, but it wasn't easy. He hated feeling like an outsider, especially among people who were supposed to be his comrades. One evening, after a particularly grueling day of training, Yunwoo decided to take a walk outside the camp. While the alien landscape stretched out before him, vast and unfamiliar. Twin moons hung low in the sky, casting an ethereal glow over everything. He sat down on a rocky outcrop, staring up at the stars and trying to clear his mind. He didn't hear He-Rin approach until she spoke. "You are troubled." Startled, Yunwoo turned to see her standing a few feet away, her robes billowing gently in the breeze. "I didn't mean to disturb you," she added. though her tone suggested otherwise. "It's fine," he muttered, looking away. "Just, thinking." "About what?" Yunwoo hesitated. He didn't want to admit how much the others' comments bothered him, or how lost he felt. But something about Hyarin's calm demeanor made it hard to lie. "I don't belong here," he admitted finally. "Not really. Everyone thinks I'm weak. Or worse, they think I'm some kind of traitor because of whatever this is between us." Hyarin knelt beside him, her luminous eyes locking onto his. "You are stronger than you believe," she said firmly. "But strength is not just about fighting, it is about understanding yourself and trusting in your potential." Her words struck a chord deep within him, though he couldn't fully grasp their meaning. "What potential?" he asked. "I'm just a soldier. Nothing special." Hyarin smiled faintly, a gesture that seemed both mysterious and comforting. "That is where you are wrong. You carry something within you, a spark that sets you apart. When the time comes, you will understand." Before Yunwoo could press her further, a sudden commotion erupted nearby. Shouts echoed through the night, followed by the sound of blaster fire. As both Yunwoo and Hyarin sprang to their feet, scanning the horizon. In the distance, shadowy figures moved swiftly toward the camp. "Assassins," Hyarin whispered, her expression turning grim. "They seek to disrupt the alliance." Without hesitation, Yunwoo grabbed the weapon strapped to his side. "We need to warn the others." Hyarin nodded, but instead of running back to the camp, she placed a hand on his arm. "Stay close to me. Together, we will protect what matters." As they hurried toward the chaos, Yunwoo felt a surge of determination. Whatever doubts he'd had about himself faded in the face of danger. This was his chance to prove his worth, not just to the others, but to himself. When they reached the camp, the scene was chaotic. Aliens and humans alike scrambled to defend themselves against the attackers, who moved with deadly precision. Amid the confusion, Yunwoo spotted one of the assassins sneaking toward Hyarin, a blade glinting in the moonlight. Without thinking, Yunwoo lunged forward, tackling the assassin to the ground. They struggled briefly, but Yunwoo managed to disarm him, delivering a swift blow that knocked the attacker unconscious. Breathing heavily, he looked up to see Hyarin watching him, her expression unreadable. "You saved me," she said quietly. I didn't think," Yunwoo replied, still catching his breath. "I just reacted." Hyarin stepped closer, placing a hand on his shoulder. "That is the essence of true strength. Instinct guided by courage." For the first time since arriving on this alien world, Yunwoo felt a flicker of pride. Maybe he wasn't as useless as everyone thought. Yeah, maybe there really was something inside him worth believing in. As the battle subsided and order was restored, Yunwoo realized that something had shifted between him and Hyarin. Their bond, once tenuous and confusing, had grown stronger. She trusted him now. And perhaps, in some small way, he was starting to trust her too. But even as the tension eased, Yunwoo couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. Whatever destiny awaited him, it was far from over. The days following the assassination attempt were a blur of activity. The camp buzzed with tension as both humans and aliens worked to strengthen their defenses. Rumors spread like wildfire about who had sent the assassins and why. Some blamed rival factions within the alien civilization. Others whispered that it was the humans themselves, trying to sabotage the fragile alliance. Amid the chaos, Yunwoo found himself at the center of attention once again. Hyarin hadn't left his side since the attack. She seemed determined to keep him close, though she rarely explained her reasons. At first, Yunwoo thought it was because she felt indebted to him for saving her life. But as the days passed, he began to notice subtle changes in her behavior. She watched him more closely. Her luminous eyes filled with an intensity that made him uneasy. It was as if she were waiting for something only she could see. One evening, after another long day of training, Hiren approached him as he sat alone by the edge of the camp. The twin moons hung low in the sky, casting a soft glow over the landscape. Yunwoo looked up as she knelt beside him, her expression unreadable. It is time, she said simply. Time for what? Yunwoo asked, frowning. To show you the truth. Before he could respond, Hyarin placed her hands on either side of his head. A strange warmth spread through his body, and suddenly his vision blurred. Colors swirled around him, and he felt as though he were falling through space. When the sensation finally subsided, he found himself standing in a place that was both familiar and foreign. It was Earth, but not the Earth he knew. The skies were darker, the cities crumbling ruins. Strange creatures roamed the streets, and the air crackled with energy. In the distance, a massive structure loomed, pulsating with light. Yunwoo turned to Hyarin, his heart pounding. What is this? He demanded. This is your past, she replied calmly, and your future. Yunwoo stared at her, confused. I don't understand. Hyarin gestured toward the horizon. Long ago, your people conducted experiments. They sought to combine human DNA with alien energy, hoping to create beings capable of bridging worlds. But the project failed, deemed too dangerous. Those involved were silenced, and the knowledge was buried. Yunwoo's mind raced as he tried to process her words. Are you saying I'm part of that project? Hyarin nodded. Your parents were among the scientists. You were born from their work, a living bridge between species. That is why I sensed something special in you. Your potential is tied to the prophecy of the Child of Two Stars. The what? Yunwoo asked, his voice trembling. The Child of Two Stars, Hyarin repeated. A being destined to unite warring civilizations across the galaxy. Many have waited for your arrival. You're hoping you would bring peace. But not everyone believes in the prophecy. Some fear what it might mean, for them and for their way of life. Yunwoo sank to his knees, overwhelmed. Everything he thought he knew about himself had been a lie. He wasn't just a soldier. He wasn't even fully human. And now, according to Hyarin, he was supposed to save an entire galaxy. This can't be real, he muttered, shaking his head. It's too much. Hyarin knelt beside him, placing a hand on his shoulder. It is real, and it is your destiny. But you are not alone. I will guide you, as will others who believe in the prophecy. Yunwoo looked at her, searching her face for any sign of deception. All he saw was sincerity and a deep sadness that tugged at his heart. Why me? He asked softly. Why does it have to be me? Because you are ready, Hyarin replied, even if you do not yet see it yourself. As the vision faded and Yunwoo returned to the present, he felt a strange mix of emotions, fear, anger, confusion, but also a flicker of hope. If what Hyarin said was true, then maybe there was a reason for everything that had happened to him. Maybe he really did have a purpose. Over the next few days, Yunwoo struggled to come to terms with the revelations. He spent hours alone, thinking about his parents and the experiments they'd been part of. Had they known what they were creating? Did they love him, or had he simply been a tool to them? The questions haunted him, but there were no answers. Meanwhile, tensions continued to rise among the humans. News of the assassination attempt had spread, and so had rumors about Yunwoo's connection to Hyarin. Some believed he was working with the aliens, feeding them information about the human team. Others accused him of being a spy, sent to infiltrate their ranks. Even those who had once been friendly toward him now treated him with suspicion. Yunwoo tried to ignore the whispers, focusing instead on his training. But it wasn't easy. Every glance, every muttered comment felt like a dagger to his already fragile confidence. He wanted to confront them, to tell them the truth. But how could he explain something he barely understood himself? One night, unable to sleep, Yunwoo wandered outside the camp. He needed space to think, to clear his head. As he walked, he noticed something strange. Small objects around him, the rocks on the ground, and the leaves on nearby plants began to tremble slightly. At first, he thought it was the wind, but when he stopped moving, the trembling stopped too. Curious, Yunwoo focused on one of the rocks. He reached out with his thoughts, willing it to move. To his amazement, it shifted slightly, rolling a few inches before stopping. His heart raced as he realized what was happening. This was the power Hairin had been talking about, the latent energy within him. Excited but cautious, Yunwoo experimented further. He discovered that he could manipulate objects with his mind, though it required intense concentration. The more he practiced, the easier it became. By the time he returned to the camp, he felt a surge of confidence he hadn't felt in weeks. But his newfound abilities came at a cost. Using them left him drained, physically and mentally. Each time he pushed himself too far, he collapsed, exhausted. Hairin noticed and warned him to be careful. "Your powers are a gift," she told him, "but they are also a burden. Do not overextend yourself, or you risk losing control." Yunwoo nodded, understanding the gravity of her words. He couldn't afford to make mistakes, not now when so much depended on him. As the days passed, Yunwoo began to embrace his role. He trained harder than ever, honing both his physical skills and his newfound abilities. Slowly but surely, he started to earn back some of the respect he'd lost. Even the most skeptical members of the team couldn't deny his progress, or the fact that he was becoming stronger every day. But despite his growing confidence, Yunwoo knew the road ahead would be difficult. Not everyone believed in the prophecy, and many still saw him as a threat. The weight of expectation pressed down on him, heavier than ever. Yet through it all, Hairin remained by his side, a constant source of support and guidance. She believed in him when no one else did, and that made all the difference. Together, they prepared for the challenges to come, knowing that their bond, and their shared destiny, would carry them through. The tension in the camp had reached a breaking point. Yunwoo could feel it in the air, thick and suffocating. Despite his growing strength and the progress he'd made, the humans around him still viewed him with suspicion. Whispers followed him wherever he went, and the once united team now seemed fractured. Even those who had started to trust him began pulling away, their loyalty wavering under the weight of fear. It didn't help that Hairin was always nearby. Her constant presence only fueled the rumors. Some believed she was controlling him, using her alien powers to manipulate his mind. Others thought she was preparing him for something sinister, perhaps even planning to use him as a weapon against humanity. No matter how hard Yunwoo tried to reassure them, the distrust lingered. One evening, as the suns dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the camp, Yunwoo sat alone by the edge of the field. He stared at the ground, absently moving small pebbles with his newfound abilities. It was a trick he'd been practicing, something simple but satisfying. The repetitive motion helped calm his racing thoughts. "You really think you can handle all this?" Yunwoo looked up to see Ji-hoon, one of the older fighters, standing a few feet away. Ji-hoon had always been tough on him, pushing him harder than anyone else during training. But lately, his tone had shifted from gruff encouragement to outright hostility. "What do you mean?" Yunwoo asked, keeping his voice steady. Ji-hoon crossed his arms, his expression grim. "You're playing right into their hands, kid. Don't you see that? They're using you, turning you into some kind of freak show." "I'm not being used," Yunwoo replied, though doubt crept into his mind. Was Ji-hoon right? Had he let himself become a pawn in someone else's game? "Sure you are," Ji-hoon shot back. "And when they're done with you, what then? You'll just be another casualty. Or worse, you'll turn on us." Yunwoo clenched his fists, frustration bubbling inside him. "I would never betray my own people." "Wouldn't you?" Ji-hoon challenged. Look at yourself. You've changed. Ever since that alien princess started messing with your head, you've been different. How do we know you're still on our side? Before Yunwoo could respond, Ji-hoon turned and walked away, leaving him alone with his thoughts. The accusation stung, not because it was entirely false, but because there was truth in it. He had changed. The power coursing through him felt foreign, yet intoxicating. And Hye-rin, she wasn't just guiding him, she was shaping him, molding him into something greater than he'd ever imagined possible. But did that make him a traitor? The question haunted him for days. He threw himself into training, trying to drown out the doubts. Yet no matter how hard he pushed himself, the unease remained. Then, one fateful night, everything came crashing down. It started with an alarm, a high-pitched wail that shattered the quiet of the camp. Yunwoo bolted upright, grabbing his weapon as shouts erupted outside. Rushing out of his tent, he saw chaos unfolding. Armed figures swarmed the perimeter, attacking both humans and aliens indiscriminately. In the distance, explosions lit up the sky, sending shockwaves rippling through the ground. "What's going on?" Yunwoo shouted to anyone who could hear him. "It's an ambush," someone yelled back. "They're targeting the princess." Yunwoo's heart sank. Without thinking, he ran toward Hye-rin's quarters, weaving through the chaos. When he arrived, he found her surrounded by enemy soldiers, their weapons trained on her. She stood tall, unflinching, her glowing robes shimmering like starlight. "Stay back!" one of the soldiers barked as Yunwoo approached. Ignoring the warning, Yunwoo raised his hands, focusing all his energy. With a sharp thrust of his mind, he sent the attackers flying backward, slamming them into the walls. The force of the blow left him gasping, but it gave Hye-rin enough time to move. "Are you hurt?" he asked, rushing to her side. "No," she replied, her voice calm despite the danger. "But this is far from over." As if on cue, more enemies poured into the room, cutting off their escape. Yunwoo prepared to fight again, but before he could act, a familiar voice called out, "Enough!" Ji-hoon stepped forward, flanked by several other human fighters. His face was cold, devoid of the camaraderie Yunwoo had once known. "We know what you are," Ji-hoon said, pointing at Yunwoo, "and we're done playing along." Yunwoo stared at him, betrayal slicing through his chest. "Ah, you sold us out?" "We did what we had to do," Ji-hoon snapped. "You're not one of us anymore, kid. You're theirs." Hye-rin stepped in front of Yunwoo, shielding him with her body. "Leave him be," she commanded, her voice carrying an authority that silenced the room. "He is destined for greatness. Your interference will not change that." Ji-hoon sneered. "Destiny doesn't pay the bills. We made a deal, with the highest bidder." Before anyone could react, a massive explosion rocked the building, sending debris raining down. In the confusion, Yunwoo and Hye-rin managed to slip away, retreating deeper into the compound. But they weren't safe yet. Enemy forces pursued them relentlessly, determined to capture or kill them. Finally, they reached a hidden chamber deep underground. Hye-rin sealed the entrance behind them, creating a barrier of light that pulsed with energy. For a moment they were alone, catching their breath. "They'll find us," Yunwoo said, his voice trembling. "What do we do?" Hye-rin turned to face him, her expression softening. "You must embrace your full potential. Only then can you stop this madness." "I don't know if I can," Yunwoo admitted, tears welling in his eyes. "What if I lose control? What if I hurt someone?" "You won't," Hye-rin assured him. "Trust yourself. Trust me." Taking a deep breath, Yunwoo closed his eyes and focused. He reached deep within himself, drawing on the power that had been growing stronger with each passing day. This time, he didn't hold back. Energy surged through him, filling the room with a blinding light. When he opened his eyes, the world around him seemed sharper, clearer, as if he could see every detail, every movement. The barrier shattered as enemy forces broke through, weapons blazing. Yunwu moved with speed and precision he hadn't known he possessed, deflecting blasts and disarming opponents with ease. Each strike sent waves of energy rippling outward, knocking their attackers off balance. For the first time, he understood the true extent of his abilities and the responsibility that came with them. But the power took its toll. With each burst of energy, Yunwu felt weaker, his body straining under the effort. Just as he thought he couldn't go on, Hirin stepped forward, placing herself directly in the line of fire. "No!" Yunwu screamed, reaching for her. A blast struck her squarely in the chest, sending her sprawling to the ground. Time seemed to slow as Yunwu rushed to her side. Decradling her in his arms, her glow dimmed, her breathing shallow. "Why?" he choked out, tears streaming down his face. "Why did you do that?" "To protect you," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "You are the child of 2 stars. The future depends on you." "I can't do this without you," Yunwu pleaded, clutched swords clanging in the distance. "Yes, you can," Hirin murmured, her hand brushing his cheek. Promise me you'll finish what we started." Yunwu nodded, his throat tight with emotion. "I promise." With one final smile, Hirin's eyes closed, her body going limp in his arms. Rage and grief surged through him, fueling his remaining strength. With a roar, he unleashed a final wave of energy, obliterating the remaining enemies and collapsing the chamber around them. When the dust settled, Yunwu emerged from the ruins, battered but alive. The cost of victory weighed heavily on him, but he knew Hirin's sacrifice wouldn't be in vain. She had shown him who he was, and who he needed to become. Now it was up to him to carry the torch. The days that followed Hirin's death were a blur of grief and determination for Yunwu. He rarely spoke, his mind consumed by the weight of her sacrifice and the promise he had made. The humans who had betrayed him were gone, their actions exposed and punished by the alien council. Those who remained looked at Yunwu differently now, with respect, but also with fear. They saw what he was capable of, and it unsettled them. Yunwu didn't care about their opinions anymore. His focus was singular, to honor Hirin's memory by fulfilling the prophecy she had believed in so deeply. He trained harder than ever, pushing himself to master the powers within him. Each day brought new challenges, but he faced them head-on, drawing strength from the lessons she had taught him. The alien civilization, too, began to change. Hirin's death had shaken them to their core. For years, they had been divided, factions fighting over power, resources, and ideology. But her final act of selflessness became a symbol of unity. Stories of her bravery spread across the galaxy, inspiring even the most hardened skeptics to reconsider their ways. Under Yunwu's guidance, peace talks began. It wasn't easy. Old wounds ran deep, and trust was hard to rebuild. But Yunwu approached the task with patience and resolve, channeling Hirin's wisdom as he mediated between warring groups. He reminded them of her vision. A world where cooperation replaced conflict, where differences were celebrated rather than feared. One evening, as the twin suns dipped below the horizon, casting the land in hues of gold and crimson, Yunwu stood before a gathering of leaders from both human and alien factions. The air was tense, filled with the weight of history and the hope of a better future. Yunwu took a deep breath, steadying himself. "I know we've all lost much," he began, his voice clear and steady. "I've lost people I cared about too, but Hirin showed me that loss doesn't have to define us. It can inspire us to be better, to do better." He paused, letting his words sink in. "She believed in a future where we could stand together, not as enemies but as allies. She gave everything for that dream. Now it's our turn to make it real." For a moment, there was silence. Then slowly, one of the alien leaders stepped forward. "You speak wisely, child of 2 stars. he said, bowing slightly. "We will honor her memory by working toward peace." Others followed suit, nodding in agreement. The humans hesitated at first, but eventually they too joined in, pledging to set aside their mistrust and work alongside the aliens. It was a fragile alliance, held together by shared pain and a common goal. But it was a start. As the meeting concluded, Yunwu walked outside, seeking solitude. He climbed a nearby hill, its peak offering a panoramic view of the alien world. The shimmering plants swayed gently in the breeze, their colors shifting like living rainbows. In the distance, the towering structures of the alien city gleamed under the fading light of the twin suns. Yunwu sat down, gazing at the horizon. He felt a strange mix of emotions: sadness for what he had lost, pride for how far they had come, and determination for the road ahead. Hairin's voice echoed in his mind, soft but unwavering. "Promise me you'll finish what we started." "I won't let you down," he whispered, his voice carried away by the wind. Over the following months, Yunwu dedicated himself to rebuilding the fractured society. He worked tirelessly, mediating disputes, fostering understanding, and ensuring that no one was left behind. The process was slow and often frustrating, but every small victory brought them closer to Hairin's dream. The humans and aliens began to collaborate in ways they never had before. Together, they developed new technologies, combining human ingenuity with alien innovation. They built schools, hospitals, and cultural centers, places where both species could learn from each other and grow together. Slowly but surely, the scars of war began to heal. Yunwu became a symbol of hope, not just for this world, but for others across the galaxy. Stories of the child of two stars spread far and wide, inspiring countless beings to strive for peace and unity. Yet despite his growing fame, Yunwu remained humble. He knew he wasn't doing this for recognition or glory. He was doing it for Hairin and for everyone who had suffered because of hatred and division. One day, as he stood atop the same hill where he had once grieved, Yunwu felt a sense of quiet fulfillment. The landscape around him was thriving, vibrant with life and harmony. Children played in the fields below, their laughter ringing out like music. Humans and aliens worked side by side, their differences no longer barriers but strengths. Yunwu closed his eyes, letting the warm breeze wash over him. He thought of Hairin, her luminous smile and unwavering faith in him. Though she was gone, her presence lingered, in the hearts of those she had touched, in the unity she had inspired, and in the legacy she had entrusted to him. Opening his eyes, Yunwu took a deep breath. There was still much to do, battles to fight and bridges to build, but for the first time in a long while he felt at peace. He had found his purpose, not just as a soldier or a leader, but as a bridge between worlds. As the twin suns sank lower, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, Yunwu smiled faintly. And the journey ahead would be long and challenging, but he was ready. With Hairin's spirit guiding him, he would continue to forge a path toward a brighter future for everyone. And so, under the watchful gaze of the twin moons, Yunwu Park, the child of two stars, stood tall, carrying the hopes of two civilizations on his shoulders. His story was far from over, but it had already become legend, a testament to the power of courage, sacrifice, and unity.